Hi, Big J. So it's been a while since we got a chance to visit, and people keep asking, get some footage from Jay, get some footage from Jay, and now we're here. So it's nice to catch up. It's nice to be here, and I just wanted to, give the fans what they wanted. So why don't you tell me, now it's been what, three Olympias that you have been competing. What do you miss the most about?
Yeah, it's been three Olympias. I'm actually in Las Vegas here. It's November of 2016, going into the new year soon. And I wanted to talk a little bit. I know I've started this channel, and I really haven't had much interview where I talk a little bit about one subject as much. It's more just been training and that kind of stuff. But you guys can see obviously the Sandows and all Arnold victories, and you hear about these stories. But I want to talk a little bit about my relationship with Ronnie Coleman, because I get a lot of comments and questions about what it was like competing in that era, and I feel like that was like the highlight of the years of bodybuilding in the Olympia. I mean, you can look around at some of the memorabilia here, and you can see like a lot of the show, it was like me and Ronnie always all the time, and people question because the magazines back then built us up to kind of hate each other. And the truth of the matter is I don't think I think we had respect for each other, but we weren't really necessarily friends. We didn't call each other on the phone. But my first experience, just so you guys know, was, I competed at the Olympia first time in '99. Ronnie won his second that year at the Mandalay Bay. I had no relationship with him at all. The next year I was going into the Night of Champions, and I went into the prejudging. It was a morning night show, the year 2000. Paul Dillette was favored to win. He was my next door neighbor at the time in Orange County. I was living in California. And, Marcus Rule had just won the week before in Toronto. They had the Toronto Pro, which was the week before the Night Champions, which is now the New York Pro. Everyone was talking about how Marcus Rule was a beast, and then Dillette, of course, was just coming in, and he had told me, I remember we did a photo shoot 9 weeks out up in Venice, and he's like, I'm going to win this show. I don't care, Jay. I know you work hard or whatever else. And I wasn't really a front runner. People didn't think I was going to win. Well, I worked my ass off for that show. It was my first year in California from moving from Massachusetts, and I had something to really prove. So I went to that show, and the prejudging, it was like I walked out there, and everyone was shocked. I knew I was in the mix. But the funny thing is in my room between prejudging and final, I get a phone call, and it's Ronnie Coleman. And it was the first time I ever really spoke one-on-one with, besides hello at shows. And he said, hey, man, congratulations. And I'm like, what do you mean? He said, oh, you won. I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, you're going to win tonight. I'm like, okay. And, that was my first experience of being in the, like, political side a little bit of bodybuilding, where you learn, okay, after prejudging, you won. They didn't judge the night show. It was kind of like, it was different from what it is now. And so I was like, I went to the show, and it was cool because I had my family there, and, my wife was there, Carrie was there and all that. So I was like so happy, I got my first pro win. I just got smoked at the Olympia like 6 months prior. And I was reevaluating, should I even continue to bodybuild? I was under Weider contract at the time. And, I went to the night show. I won my first pro show. I mean, I have the ring. I have the ring sitting right here, actually. The Night of Champion ring, which is, as you guys can see.
Wow.
See. Never even worn it. It stayed in here. Oh, shit, I must drop it. So that was my first pro victory, and that was the first experience I had really kind of. And Ronnie, of course, I looked at it. I mean, guy's Mr. Olympia. Was came in freaky in '98, '99. But now, like I was qualified for the Olympia, and I was leading into the Olympia, and I went to the Olympia and got 8th, moved up from 15th the year before, and then we went on the European tour. So there was only like him and I that really went on the tour of the top guys. Like Kevin and all these guys didn't go. So I was like, damn, it's got an opportunity for me to pick up some money. And we went on there, and I placed second to Ronnie. But this is the first time I ever experienced, like, wow, I can actually stand next to Ronnie Coleman, because we got to compare, and Chris Aceto actually went on the tour with me. Kerry Kays paid for Chris Aceto to come for me, which was really awesome. He ran like the English Grand Prix, and we did a couple other places. I forget where it was. It was like 2 or 3 stops. And like I got to stand next to Ronnie, and I remember Chris Aceto said to me, like, Jay, you can beat this guy. The year of training, I'm telling you, you can stand with this guy. And I was like, yeah, whatever. It is what it is. But for the first time I saw, like, wow, I got crowd applause and people thought Jay's in tremendous shape. So I said, you know what, screw it. I'm going to sit out. I signed a deal with ISS like the end of 2000, who he has, oh yeah, bars now. And then I said, screw it. I'm going to just focus on the Olympia. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to come back and I'm just going to do it the next year. Because I think I don't know how I was qualified. I was qualified, I think I don't know if it was top 10 qualified or whatever. So
Yeah, top 10 at the time.
so
Yeah.
I went, I prepared for that, and I went into the mindset like, screw it, I'm just gonna do whatever I want to do. I'm gonna get big as fuck, and I'm gonna just come in there like a fucking monster. And it's exactly what I did. Like, I blew up in the off season. I got to like 290, 300 pounds, and I was in solid shape. And I remember I started dieting for the show at like 20 weeks out because Chris is like, yeah, if you want to start. So I started like doing like carb cycling, and literally by 10 weeks out, I was already like ready for the show. So Chris is like, dude, you just got to eat. You got to eat way into the show. So I remember we just did mostly high carb days and whatever, and I blew back up to 290, but really good condition, just holding a lot of water. And I remember, leading to the show, people were asking me like, what's your plan? And then they saw me doing photo shoots like 2 or 3 weeks out, and they're like, holy shit, you're gonna win this fucking show. And even the photographers are like, you're not gonna be out of the top 5 this year. But of course, no one thinks, oh, Jay's gonna come in and win. He's not really a front runner. Well, boom, next thing you know, I went in there and could have, should have, would have won the show. I got second. It was a kind of a decision. Ronnie was scared as shit. I saw it for the first time.
After prejudging, when you blew everybody's mind and everybody's telling you, because that was the word,
Yeah.
Jay's going to beat Ronnie, Jay's going to beat Ronnie. Lonnie Tipper is still telling me the story.
Yeah.
About telling you in the elevator, telling Coleman, Jay's going to beat you.
Yeah, and he, I remember Lonnie asked me before the show, how are you going to do? I said, I'm going to win it. He's like, yeah, right, whatever, kid, So after everyone's like, holy shit, Jay Cutler's going to win the Olympia.
How did you feel?
And, I was kind of like, yeah, we'll see what happens. And of course I lost. And, Ronnie was very defensive about it. Of course, anyone would be, because people said, oh, Jay should have won and whatever. He's like, no, whatever. And then unfortunately I sat out, 2002 and, I was moving to Vegas and I was buying all this real estate and stuff out here. So that's kind of how it went about. And, and that started the whole Ronnie Jay era, of 2003, 4, 5, until I won in 2006. I mean, they built the show around him and I, which, was awesome. I mean, but we would guest post together. People would hire us together because we were the two front runners, and it was kind of like to bounce off each other. But like, it was so much like tension when we were around each other.
Really?
He kind of, people would be like, so you're going to beat Jay? And then they'd be asking me, you're going to beat Ronnie? I'm like, hell yeah, I'm trying, But then he came back in 2003. He was a beast. I mean, I was kind of devastated at that point because I'm like, fuck, he looked amazing that year. But then I'm like, okay, I need to get big as fuck. So 2004, I came in big as shit. And, he wasn't as good as 2003, but it was still like, wow, he still looked crazy.
05, you came close.
And for 05, I came in better condition. I was a little tighter. He came down a little bit in size because I think they were telling him, like, listen, you're just too damn big. You don't need to be that big. And he tried to come down a little bit, but...
your back caught up to his in 05.
Yeah,
I remember
my back
that.
caught up, but, it's hard to say, but I watched what Ronnie did, and, I started doing the heavy rows and the deadlifts and all this stuff, and I started training a little heavier in the back, and yes, it did help. The pull-ups, I think, helped me the most, so... You guys out there that want to increase like back width and all that, the pull-ups are key to that. Even with just body weight, I was heavy at the time, so it didn't really matter. But, the truth is like Ronnie and I just, like, we respect each other, but I know there was a lot of tension, and I know, like, even at the Olympia, like, my family versus his family, and my friends, like, there would be our cheering sections, and I know there was, like, tension there. And it's funny, because now, Ronnie and I, like, we, after he retired... we started to converse a little bit. He's kind of moved on and done, he's got a huge family now, and I don't really talk to him as much. I rarely see him as much because he's been not at many events as I have, but, like, I really miss those days. I always tell people, like, people ask, when was the prime of, like, your bodybuilding era, like, when you, like, loved it the most? And that was, honestly, the battles with Ronnie. And once Ronnie was gone after I beat him in 2007, it wasn't as fun. People can sit there and talk about the friendships with Phil Heath and all this stuff, but it just wasn't the same. I mean, the new guys come in, Kai Green. I didn't know any of these guys. So as much as I didn't like Ronnie because he was beating me, I still had respect for him, and I think he had respect for me because he knew I was at his heels and I was consistently there. But we just weren't friendly. Like we weren't, we'd hang out in Pittsburgh like right before we started prepping for each year at Jim Mannion show, and we would have fun and we'd laugh and joke. But I know like I would like to see what he looked like, and he would like to see what I looked like, because it's like, okay, what do we have to do this year to get over this guy, you know? And I think once you retire and you can sit back and now looking at these other guys competing and not seeing as much excitement. I mean, Kai Green pulling out of the Olympia and not doing it anymore. It's kind of like deflated the show a little bit. You still got Dexter in there, who was there when I was there. But, it's less exciting to me. I mean, it honestly is to watch. Of course, I'm not competing, so maybe that's why. But, I had a lot of respect for Ronnie. He had a lot of respect for me, but the truth is we had a lot of tension. There was a lot of money at stake. We were the two highest paid guys. We signed the biggest contracts in probably bodybuilding history ever, between his BSN deal and my Muscle Tech deal. We were the highest paid that probably will ever be endorsed in the business, and we were the best. I mean, we were the draws, and that's when I think bodybuilding was at its peak as far as supplements and all that. So the marketing, you saw the magazines. I mean, just pages and pages of ads, and now of course social media has changed that. You don't even have to be a successful bodybuilder or someone of any kind of title to actually be popular. You can see that with these YouTube people and all that. But we were proven. I mean, that was the key thing about Ronnie and I. We time and time again, we'd win. Or for my case, I'd be second to him. We'll go win the Arnold. I won the Arnolds every year, and I wasn't satisfied. So I gave up winning the Arnold Classics to chase Ronnie Coleman's title, and of course I did after the second attempt since I stopped doing the Arnold. I did the Arnold till 2, 3, and 4, and then I skipped it in 05. I got second, and then in 06 I won the Olympia. And that's about it. I mean, Ronnie, he has 8 Mr. Olympias. I have 4. I could have more. I could have less. It's really people's opinion. I think he could have more. Could have less. And we go down in history books as the 10th and the 11th Mr. Olympia, which is pretty cool. And that's about the history. So.
Well, I'm sure your YouTube subscriber will be glad you did this interview. It's really cool that you actually decided to do that, just as a fan, because I know we did that series back in 2013 where it was widely successul.
Yeah.
People were seeing prep, and I wish we had done that earlier. I don't know why we didn't think about it.
Well, the truth of the matter is it's. I'm going to get on here and talk a little bit about relationships, because I know it's a lot of questions. What I think about the state of bodybuilding, and I just want to thank everyone for out there following, and keeping me updated on your progress and watching mine as I continue to train and just beat Father Time. It's pretty awesome. So till next time, guys, thank you so much.
So subscribe.